This is an interesting location. Looks like Bobby is in the Ohio State indoor facility coming off a workout. I mean, it's like it's like Bobby Carpenter. He's rewound a decade or so, and he's playing for Ohio State, and we're getting him after practice. What's up, Bobby? How are you?
How are we doing, gentlemen? I don't know if it's quite really a decade. It'd be more like two, but
Well, it's going to be
yeah,
nice.
just finish up a little workout here, and we're getting some things going. Got a busy day ahead, so excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
So where are we right now in Ohio State? I mean, obviously you go back in Eugene, 1-point loss. Then you watch Oregon after that game against Illinois, and they were completely dominant. Looked like they finally put a full 4 quarters together. And then Ohio State brings in a Nebraska team that had gotten crushed 56-7 to Indiana. They were lucky to survive that game. So now people are down on Ohio State. Is this a spot that Ryan Day likes being in where people are starting to doubt one-loss Ohio State?
Well, I think a little bit of the internalizing of the program, and sometimes when you come off a tough loss like that, the thing you want to do is go play right away. And they had that bye week, and I don't know if things got stale. It was a little awkward, and you play Nebraska, and Nebraska's better than what they showed against Indiana. Obviously, they had a 1-point loss to Illinois. They played pretty well this year, and it was kind of a perfect storm at home, and you got a chance to separate the game, and it really doesn't. Next thing you know, you're losing. They came back and they won, and so yeah, there's some local heat, I would say, surrounding Ohio State. The fact that they didn't drop in the polls, I think, kind of change is a different narrative nationally. But I think that they've been looking at this Penn State game. I mean, outside the Oregon game, this was the next one that was circled. They had a narrow defeat out there in Eugene, and now they're taking on a Penn State team that's ranked really high. That had a tough battle themselves over in Madison against Wisconsin. So you got to prepare for a couple quarterbacks. You got to look in a couple guys, but I think the pressure of this situation, the moment, and this is why you come to a place like Ohio State and you relish these opportunities. And it's going to be on the road, and it's not going to be a night game, which I think would have been great for everyone watching. But it's going to be a pretty darn fun atmosphere.
Bobby Carpenter with us, Sirius XM. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline, former Ohio State great, Dallas Cowboy. But these numbers. I mean, obviously, you're in Columbus. You follow the Big Ten. You follow your former program. Ryan Day is 2-6 versus the top 5, and James Franklin is 1-9 versus the top 10. 3-17 versus the top 10. 1-9 versus Ohio State. This is literally one of those something's got to give. These are the types of game Ryan Day has struggled with, but these are the types of games James Franklin just never wins.
Yeah, I mean, James Franklin struggled dramatically against Ohio State. I mean, since he got there, and whether it was Urban or whether it's been Ryan. And, I'm kind of lamenting the fact that this has been a great game, and there's been a lot of times it's been really close, and that it's not going to be played now on an annual basis. And Penn State doesn't have any protected rivalries. I wanted to see two. I wanted to see Michigan. I wanted to see Penn State, because they're going back 30 some odd years to when Penn State entered the Big Ten. I mean, it's been a pretty fun game, and it's been a game that's been played on an annual basis each and every year. And Ryan, people look at the 2-6 mark against top 5. I mean, he's 8-7 against top 10. Like, is there a difference between 4 and 7? I'm not sure. I had a scout tell me one time stats are like hostages. When you cut them up, they'll tell you whatever you want.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's some truth to that. But this is a game of gravity. And for Ohio State to win this, it puts them back in the driver's seat to potentially make the Big Ten championship. It's a game that if you lose, I mean, you really have zero margin for error moving forward in hopes to make the CFP. So, I mean, it could be going from the potential to have, a bye or maybe a worse to home game. If you lose this game, I mean, you have to win out. And, it's wild to think this, but you're going to have an Indiana team coming in that might be in or around the top 10. So this is a huge game of gravity and magnitude. You've got to find a way to get it done. And I think they're positioned pretty well to be able to do it.
That is the quote of October. We've got to get a T-shirt. Yeah. Stats are like hostages. Cut them up. They'll tell you anything you want. So I asked this question to the guys yesterday. Who does have more pressure on them in this game? Is it Ryan Day or is it James Franklin?
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the fan base, I guess, and how upset people are. I think this is a must-win. Like, you look at James Franklin, you mentioned the record for him. You look at the record for Ryan Day, and this week, I mean, there's been a lot of people in Columbus who were unhappy, obviously, with that Nebraska performance. I mean, I don't know. I mean, both fan bases are equally, as upset. You looked at the Bama Georgia game. Like, who was it bigger to win for? Kalen DeBoer to get a win, in his first big game, or Kirby Smart to beat Alabama finally when Saban isn't there? And it's like, well, I mean, both the guys need it pretty darn bad. I mean, you're both, trying to fight for some air right there. So I don't know. I think it's huge for both. I think Penn State maybe has a little more room for error because should they lose this game, I mean, they're still a one-loss team, and unless they, you know, wet the bed moving forward, they still should be able to get into the playoffs. So I think Ohio State probably has a little more pressure on from the standpoint of like you've lost to Oregon already, and despite how good that looked to a really good team, like you've got to find a way to make sure that you don't stack up too many losses.
That is the thing on this is Penn State loses this game, to your point. They probably, I mean, it almost locks Ohio State or Indiana or someone else into Indianapolis. And Penn State probably still gets a home playoff game if they don't lose another game. I mean, the remainder of their schedule is so forgiving. There was part of me that thought the playoff would create this and I would hate it, but I'm still excited for this game, Bobby. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, the playoffs ruined it because this game would have so much more magnitude. You just said it. This game's got a ton of gravity and magnitude, yet it's not the end of the world for Penn State.
So it's interesting, like, and this is what's unique about college football. Everybody didn't want, the 4 team. It didn't, and I understood it. And there's a part of me that said, hey, it'll be tough on the sport. It will diminish the value of the regular season. But this year, like, think of the games that we've seen and some of the losses that we've had. And nationally, people take a much more objective approach. But I guarantee you, if you go down into Austin right now and they're talking like they lost a game, they barely beat Vanderbilt, like Ohio State lost a game, they barely beat Wisconsin. You look at what's going on now. Alabama got right a little bit against Missouri, but internally, even though your pathway to the playoff is still there, internally the loss still feels the same, at least to the fan base. So I don't know if that will dissipate over time when people start realizing there's still a path, but there's so much pride in college football fans of what their team looks like each and every week that despite the fact that you still have a chance to win a national title, and heck, in divisionless conferences, even a chance to go win a conference title as well. But people are still so furious and upset about it, and that's good. So I said, like, college football still hasn't lost its fastball.
So I think it's interesting going into Week 10, I can ask you this question and not know the answer before you say it, but who are the top 3 teams right now in the Big Ten?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I think you have to put Oregon, obviously, at the top of the heap. I would say Oregon is 1, and then we'll see this weekend against Penn State and Ohio State. I believe Ohio State is still a better roster than Penn State. I think they're a better team. Now it's on the road, and you've got to play well, but I would say Penn State, and then wildly enough, I think Indiana is that 4th best team. I never thought I would have said that. You would have looked at Michigan, you would have looked at USC, whomever, but I'm going to lean in on Indiana with what they've done this year.
All right, Bobby, we're going to let you do 10 more gassers and get out of here, okay? 10 more.
Hey, you're still relatively young. Are you doing sprints?
I ran a conditioning test on my birthday this year, so I can still handle it. I mean, I'm 41. I'm not that young, but I can still handle it.
Young enough.
Young enough. I mean, I had you at Ohio State a decade ago just to be nice.
Okay, so if you had to go
to
South Beach for a weekend or Vegas for a weekend, 48 hours.
Oh, gosh. I haven't been to South Beach in a long time.
Yeah, we were talking about, I'm not a fan of South Beach. Vegas I can handle for 48 hours. The older you get, the more you distance yourself from those places.
Yeah, I could handle Vegas. It's self-contained. It's a lot easier. South Beach, I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong there. To me, the Vegas upside is much higher than the downside. Whereas you get to South Beach, yeah, there's a high ceiling, but the floor's a lot lower too, I feel like.
I said it earlier, you wake up in the Glades, man.
Absolutely.
Bobby, thank you very much for the time. Enjoy your day. Everybody can catch him on SiriusXM this afternoon. We always appreciate your time, Bobby.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. That is Bobby Carpenter, the former Ohio State great, and Dallas Cowboy working out there in the facility. Cool seeing the inside of the Ohio State facility there. That was a surprise. I didn't know we were going to get that.